Hello, my friends. Bella Maldonado here, and this week we are using the Housewives Tarot for our reading. And I just love this deck. It's such a fun, interesting little deck here. The idea behind this is that it's supposed to be reminiscent of those vintage illustrations and ads that you used to see in magazines from the 50s and maybe the early 60s. It's really got that old vintage feel to it. When you open the box, it's designed to look like an old recipe box where you have the recipes on index cards and you see all the different categories. So in this box, we have a section for the major arcana, and we have a section for the minor arcana, and then back here there's a section for the instruction book, and it's just very cute, and I absolutely love this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cards out. Look at the backs. The backs just have like that apron style or those picnic table cloth styles pattern to it. It's so cute. Gotta love it. And this is what the instruction booklet looks like. It's a little cute book, and it's got a little toaster oven with the cards popping out of there. Not a toaster oven, a toaster. And inside you'll just find brief descriptions on every card. Adorable little book. Okay, so I'm going to put this back in the box, and let's give this deck a shuffle, shall we? Now these cards are a really nice size. There's some tarot cards that are just enormous and impossible to shuffle, but these are just the perfect size. I feel like I want to give it another shuffle. Let's give it another riffle shuffle. And you can see these images, like how much of a vintage feel they've got. Aren't they great? Okay, so we are going to use our usual 4-card spread to come up with the art that we're going to be creating this week. All right, so card number 1, 4 of Pentacles. This is our theme. So 4 of Pentacles is usually about somebody who is holding on tightly to their possessions. Someone who's afraid to let go. They don't want to share. They don't want to give it away. They just want to hold on strongly to what they have. Okay, so let's think about that a little bit as we go through the rest of the cards. Card number 2 is going to be their color. So the first color that I saw was this yellow in the towel in her hair. Even though there's lots of other colors here, I kind of like the blue also. So maybe we can do a combination of blue and yellow somewhere in our art. Okay, the next card is going to be the medium that we will be using in our art. We've got the Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune. So I'm seeing a lot of circles here. I'm wondering if maybe we can use either polka dots or maybe paper cutouts of circles that we can paste in or glue in our artwork. There's definitely a lot of circles involved here. So I don't know if we're gonna again try to attempt a mixed media project where we can, use some cutouts of circles and either use it as our background, or I don't know, we'll incorporate it somehow. Okay, and then card number 4 is going to be our focal point. This is what the main attraction is. This is what we're going to be looking at. This is the main thing that we're going to be drawing. So let's see what we've got. We have the King of Cups reversed. So let me just turn this upright just so that we can see what this looks like normally. So we have our gentleman here lounging on his chair, and he's drinking a beer. So, you know, he looks like he's coming home from a rough day at work. Doesn't have to be rough, but it looks like he came from work and he's relaxing and he's letting kind of the worries of the 9-to-5 job behind while he's enjoying his beer at home. So as a reversal, maybe it's somebody who is not very happy with his life and he is consuming a lot of alcohol. So instead of this just being kind of a leisurely, relaxing thing in its reverse position, to me it seems like something that maybe has more control over him. So, you know, maybe the drinking is a way for him to hide some of the problems that he's having. Again, I don't know if it's work related or it's just problems at home, but it looks to me that in this reverse position he's really hiding behind this drink. So if we go back to the theme, we've got somebody who wants to hold on and not let go. So maybe our person has some kind of a problem with alcohol, and it's not a habit that he wants to let go of, and it's consuming his life. So maybe we can do something like that. We can create some kind of a depiction of an individual who's really struggling with their alcohol, who's really struggling with dealing with the cards they've been dealt, if you will. And we'll do that using some kind of polka dots or cutout circles. Could be in the background, could be a part of maybe some kind of pattern in the drawing that we make. And who knows if it's going to be a drawing, maybe it'll just be some abstract painting or mixed media. Still working on that, but we definitely have something to work with here. We have a good story, we have colors, we know what we want to kind of throw in there in terms of a pattern. So I think we're good. I think we're good. So what I decided to do was to make a painting with acrylic paints. So first I'm applying some white gesso onto my watercolor paper just to get it primed and ready to accept the paints. And I'm laying down some orange and yellow because yellow came up as one of the colors. So I will be, in addition to that mustard yellow, I will be using a lighter yellow because I think that's the one that I really wanted to focus on that came up in that card. So I'm using a old game card, I think it was from an arcade place, and I'm just using that to kind of smear all the paint around. So it's not just, you know, a solid color, but just to kind of mix it up a little bit and give that background some texture. And this is where the fun comes in. I decided that I was going to use the stencil that I had created with all the polka dots that I used for another video. I was going to use it for this to create the circles that we talked about to use as the background of our art piece. Now, I think this might be cheating because the card that came up with the circles was talking about the medium that we would be using, and circles really aren't a medium unless we were gonna, you know, maybe make cutout circles and use the paper from the cutouts as part of the art piece, but that's okay. I mean, as long as we use the reading to inspire us to create something in one fashion or another, I think it's okay to play around with the card positionings and the meanings as long as it inspires you to make something. It's all good, right? So here we are with the stencil. I'm putting polka dots everywhere in the background, and I'm using the yellow. So, you know, I'm being true to some part of the reading at least. So at this point of the painting, I'm trying to figure out, do I do it horizontal? Do I do it vertical? I wasn't really sure because the reference that I found on Pinterest was in a was in a horizontal format. So I figured, well, since I'm still trying to figure out this whole drawing thing, maybe it's better that I just keep everything the same. And, you know, eventually, as I improve and can draw on my own without a reference, then I can play around with the orientation and the positions. But for now, we're just gonna stick to what we see. So right now you can't really see the pencil very well, but I'm just trying to lightly sketch the person's face. So what I decided I was going to draw was it was somebody, I was trying to find somebody who looked like they've just been drinking too much. They're at their wits' end and they're just basically sitting in a bar hoping that all their troubles will go away. And I did a lot of searching on Pinterest until I found the photo that I thought really told that story. So I'm just drawing this woman. It's a close-up of her face, and she's holding a glass in her hand that has just a little bit of a drink left in there, and you can kind of tell that she's just been sitting at the bar for hours. So I'm skipping to the point where you can actually see some pencil lines on this piece of paper. And I got some paint to color in her skin, and I found kind of like a peach color, but as I was applying it to the paper, it was turning out purple or lilac almost. And I think it was because it was mixing with the orange that's already part of the background. So I figured, okay, I'm probably gonna have to get some gesso just to, even this out a bit and start with a nice primed area. So I'm putting down the white gesso, and I'm hoping that once I apply the peach, it will actually have a peachy tone to it instead of lilac, because we are not drawing an alien. Okay, so we're finishing up getting the chin area. I'm gonna prime up the rest of her face, and you know, it's fun because this is the first time that I'm actually playing around with acrylic paints. I'm sure I've used acrylic paints as a kid, but you know, I don't remember any lessons learned from that. So the idea of, you know, putting that paint on and all of a sudden her face looking lilac, that was unexpected for me. But like I said, hopefully as I continue to make more and more of these videos, I'll understand how colors work together. I'll understand how paints work on paper, when they have a background, when they don't have a background. So this is going to be a really fun learning lesson for me, just doing this entire series of art. I think I'm going to learn a lot just from the mistakes, and hopefully with some successes I will also learn some lessons. So as I apply the white gesso, my person is looking more and more like Marilyn Manson. But you know, that's fine. At least, you know, it looks like a face. Even though Marilyn is not in my reference, at least it looks like a face. So now that I've applied the gesso everywhere that I think it needs, I'm going to apply the peach. Let's see if it worked. Are we getting the color? Yes, that's the color that I wanted. There we go. That's looking like a skin tone. Okay, we're in business. For the right side of the face, I wanted to make the skin tone a little lighter because the light is supposed to be coming from that side. And I had decided that I was going to invest in a 24-pack of Arteza acrylic paints, because what I had originally was just, I think it was kind of like a starter kit from Michaels that only had red, blue, yellow, white, and black. I think those were the only colors. And I was just experimenting to see if I can easily make a skin tone, any skin tone. I didn't care. Just I wanted to see if I can make skin tones. And I wasted so much paint just trying to get the right balance. And I was trying to do different shades of skin tones, and eventually it would come out, but I had used so much paint. And I thought, well, you know, until I can figure out this whole painting thing and color theory and how colors mix, I'm gonna have to invest in paints that already have the colors that I need, because this was just so wasteful. So I went ahead, I got my paints. They came, I think, last week. So I was very excited to open them up and use them for the first time with this project. So now I'm working on the arm and working my way up to the hand. And you all know how I feel about hands. You know, hands are tricky. Hands are tricky, but I try to put them in my artwork as frequently as I can to get the practice in. So I already did the outline with the pencil, so now I am filling it in with the paint. And, you know, they came out okay-ish. The only thing that didn't come out as I planned was the thumb. And you can't see the thumb just yet because I haven't painted it in at this point. But it's in a ridiculous position. Once it's painted in, like at first the shadow of the thumb looks like it's a piece of hair that is, you know, just falling on top of her forehead, but that's not hair. It's supposed to be the shadow of the thumb. But even with that, just the positioning of the thumb doesn't make sense, because if you get rid of the glass, you would see that the thumb does not belong there. There's no human way that that thumb should exist in the position that it's in. It's just, you know, very Picasso-y. Now, if the whole thing was Picasso-y, okay, sure, that would look great. That would look fabulous. It would look intentional. But that's the only thing that's out of place. You know, it's not like she has 3 noses, and it's not like her lip is where her eye should be. It's just a very awkwardly placed thumb. Anyway, let's move on from the thumb. Right now I'm putting gesso on the eyes because I don't want another lilac fiasco. So we're just priming that section up to give her some blue eyes, because also in the card that came up for color, at the beginning I mentioned the first thing that struck me was the yellow in the towel that was wrapped around her head, but then I also touched on the blue that was in the card, that I might be able to incorporate that color as well. So I decided that I'm gonna use the blue for the eyes. And now we're also priming the lips, because the lips are going to be like a light pink, and who knows what that was going to look like without gesso. So I'm just trying to prime up all the parts that I need so I can accurately get the colors that I want to see. So now our lady has some eyeballs. Excellent. We're moving along. Oh, here's here's the infamous thumb. We are painting in the thumb. So you see how far up it is? Like if you compare that to the rest of her hand and where her other fingers are, it just doesn't belong up there. I don't know why I did that. But anyway, what's done is done. There it is. We'll just leave that alone. So now I'm trying to add some shading to her face. I'm trying to mix some colors up to get darker versions of the paints that I have, and making lighter versions just for the highlighted area. And it's so much easier when you have 24 colors instead of 5. Because with those 5 colors that I had before from the kit that I was telling you about, you know, just making something darker, I'll just end up making it a completely different color. So that was, you know, a bit of a nightmare. So, you know, it was so much easier trying to mix colors and create lighter versions and darker versions, or something that has, you know, just a little bit of purple in it. I didn't have to create purple and then add it to the other color, right? So this is so much easier and so much more relaxing and less wasteful. So just adding some more paints just to, you know, again, add those highlights and shaded parts. Now I'm grabbing my blue that I'm going to use for the eyes. So it was nice to have that little pop of color in there that was different from the yellows and oranges that I was using. And oh, I was talking about color theory before, and I actually did learn from color theory that blue is on the opposite side of orange, which is why it tends to work well together, because they're contrasting, and you know, it's supposed to be more attractive. You'll see a lot of logos with that blue and orange combination. But yeah, that's all I know. I haven't studied it beyond that. So anyway, there are my blue eyes. So now it's time to color in the lips, and I wanted to use a nice light pink. I wanted to keep the lips looking a little on the natural side. I didn't want anything overly dramatic, so we just kept it nice and light. So one thing that I've learned is when your drawing or your painting is still looking a little flat, just shade. Just add some shading. I mentioned that in one of my other videos, that, you know, when it looks unfinished and it needs a little something, just throw in some shading. And when you're done with all the shading, grab some highlight, right? So I'm putting some shade under the eye because that's where she's holding the glass, and that's kind of where the shadows would be. And now I'm just adding some highlights just along the edge of her cheek, because there is a little bit of light coming from, I guess, the lower left side, or her lower right side, however you want to look at that direction. But anyway, I just keep playing around with the shading and the highlight in the hopes that it will look more dimensional, I guess. Yeah, is that the word? Is that the word that I want to use? Yeah, so I keep playing around with it. And the great thing about using paints is that if you make a mistake with the shading, you just grab the paint color that you want and just paint right on top of it. So that's something that I do enjoy about using acrylic paints. And I don't know if you can do the same thing with other paints, maybe, I don't know, probably not with watercolors, but yeah, definitely with acrylic paints, it's fun that you can play around with the colors and just, if you made a mistake, just use the right color that you want and just paint on top. Or I guess that wouldn't work all the time. I mean, we can refer back to the lilac fiasco of 2021. You can't just always directly paint on top of it. But I think if you let it dry for a little bit and then you apply the paint, then it should work. Or you know what? If all else fails, just slap some gesso on top of that and you're good to go. So now I'm looking at my gelatos, thinking, well, maybe I can apply some of that and smear it a little bit, because she's got some kind of smeared eyeliner going on a little bit, or maybe it's smeared mascara, it's hard to tell. But at this point I wasn't really sure what was the right thing to use for that, because I don't have small enough paint brushes to really paint details. I think the smallest brush that I had was what I used to paint the eyes, and that wasn't going to be thin enough for me to do kind of like that eyeliner smeared look. So I grabbed some of the gelatos. The gelatos are also pretty thick, so for this size paper, probably not the best thing to use. I'm also trying to use it for the hair that's close to the root. What I like about the gelatos is that you can smudge them with your finger, so it looks nice and blended. But I don't know if it was really doing the thing that I wanted it to do. So now I'm painting in her hair, and you know, again, my brushes aren't very thin, so I couldn't really make fine details within the hair, like little strands of hair sticking out. But again, you know, with practice and understanding how this all works, maybe I could have figured it out with the brushes that I have. But at the moment, it's kind of just going on as one big glob of helmet hair. But, you know, we move on. We work with what we have, right? So at this point of the painting, it's already 2 days later. And that's because my art studio passes for a lot of other areas in the house. And we had my father-in-law in town. So my art studio passes for the guest room and the dining room and the living room and the office space. So I kind of had to wrap things up. It was already, I don't know, 11:30 at night. So I couldn't really stay in the area much longer. And the next day, my son was having a friend sleepover. So, you know, having little guys running around while I'm trying to draw and paint and record video just didn't seem like the best idea. So this is 2 days later, and I've decided to give up on the acrylic paints and move on to colored pencils. I wasn't sure if that was going to work. I wasn't sure if you can color on top of paint, but it was coming to a point where I wanted to work on the details of the face. You know, I wanted to add her eyeliner, I wanted to add eyelashes, I wanted to shade in some of the eyeshadow. So there were a lot of things that I wanted to do that required fine detail, and like I said, since I don't have a thin brush, I had to resort to my colored pencils in the hopes that I could blend the pencils in with the paint that was already on it. And again, it was 2 days later, so I knew that the paint was thoroughly dry. It was just a matter of, can I actually blend pencils in on this already painted paper? And it turned out to work out okay. There were some things that didn't blend as smoothly. I noticed that the brown pencil didn't seem to lay on as well as the black pencil. When I would use the brown pencil, it almost would remove the pencil that was underneath, which was very strange. And now I'm just adding some more details to the eyes, putting in the little pink parts at the corner of the eyes, whatever that's called. I don't know what that's called. I should look that up. But anyway, adding more and more details. I'm going to be taking my white Gelly Roll pen and making the little shines in the eyes. And then I wanted to make the white part of the eye a little brighter. So I took my Posca pen marker, and filled that in with white just to give it more brightness. And I think that really helps. You know, originally the eyes looked a little dull, and just by putting in that white in the eye with the Posca pen, it just makes a big difference. So now I'm trying to add details to the glass, and I was thinking, I have no idea how to make this glass look like a glass and to make it look transparent. So I'm trying to put markings on the glass so you can see where it kind of has a shape to it. I don't know how to describe it. I can't find the words, but you know, I wanted to make it look like she was holding a glass, a drinking glass. So, you know, whatever details I can put to this, I tried. I have to look more into how to draw things that are transparent, because when it came time to draw this thing, I was like, I have no idea. I have no idea how to make this work. But anyway, later on, you'll see that I grab my Gelly Roll pen again just to make some highlights and reflections in the glass. And that helps a little bit, but it's still not quite exactly how I would have liked it to look. But, you know, like I always say, it did its job. So at this point, I had already put the highlights on the glass, and I felt like I didn't have enough of the polka dots in the background by her hand, because that's originally when I was thinking of doing it vertically. But when I switched it to horizontal, her hand didn't quite take up all the space. So I just grabbed my Posca paint marker and just added some more circles in there just to kind of balance it out a bit. And I wasn't quite happy with her helmet hair, so I grabbed my Pitt Pen to see if I can add some strands of hair to give it a little more detail. I don't know that I love how it came out, but you know, it was a little added something, so I'll live with it. I'll live with it. And I also wanted to add some more details to her eyebrows, so I think the pen helped out a little bit there too. So I think we're done. I think this is it. Here's our final painting as a result of our reading with the Housewives Tarot deck. We have our lady here who deals with her pain, her struggles, and her frustrations behind a glass of alcohol. And as our Four of Pentacles showed, she will not let go of that glass. I hope you enjoyed this week's artwork. I hope you're creating along with me. Make sure you put up your own versions of this reading and post it on Instagram and tag it with Bella M Tarot Art. I'd love to see your visual interpretations. Until next time, later!